Imagine if it took IRCC as long to process an application as Canada's existed as a country. That's 157 years. And in fact, that's roughly how long it's going to take IRCC to process the inventory of startup visa applications. And that's why, if you're considering launching or building a business in British Columbia, you have to consider the Provincial Nominee Program. Hi, I'm Brooke, the founder of Navio. At Navio, we deliver expert Canadian immigration advice and strategy without the law firm price tag. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the real story behind the SUV wait times and introduce you to the BC Provincial Nominee Entrepreneur Programs. What's going on with the Startup Visa Program? Recently, IRCC updated the processing time online to 10 plus years, but their own data shows that that's not even close to how long it's going to take to clear the backlog. There are roughly 38,600 applications sitting in the startup visa backlog. And IRCC's official document estimates that it will take 420 months or 35 years to work its way through this backlog. But the new immigration levels plan suggests that it might be even worse. In this year's plan, IRCC is reducing the number of federal business applicants to 500, and that includes startup visa and the self-employed class. And although the self-employed class isn't accepting new application, there's still a backlog. And that target, that 500 target, is people, not applications. So using IRCC's data, there are approximately 1.9 people per application in the economic classes. That equates to roughly 260 files per year if 100% of the federal business quota is allocated to the startup visa program. If we apply that to the SUV backlog of 38,600 applications and all 500 allocations per year go to SUV, that's about 150 years. If only 80% of the quota go to SUV and the remainder go to self-employed class, that's 184 years. And even if IRCC were to process the high end of the target, because the target is 500, but the range is 250 to 1,000. So even if they processed the high end of the target, that's still about 74 years. And that's why those considering building in British Columbia need to consider the Provincial Nominee Program. The BC Provincial Nominee Program is administered by the Province of British Columbia's Ministry of Jobs, Economic Development and Competitiveness. IRCC allocates a quota to the Provincial Nominee Program every year to allow the province to nominate newcomers who are going to advance the economic priorities of the province. And this allows Canada's immigration system to be responsive to the unique needs of each region of the country. And within the Provincial Nominee Program are many streams. Specific to entrepreneurs, we have the base stream and the regional stream. The first key differentiator between the two streams is where your business will be located. If you're going to operate in one of the communities that's a participant of the regional stream, then that might be the best fit. Now, the regional stream is only available to entrepreneurs who are starting or launching a new business within one of these participating communities. If you are purchasing a business, you can still establish the business in one of the regional communities, but you'll need to apply through the base stream and meet the requirements of the base stream. Another key difference between the streams is the net worth requirement. In the base stream, applicants must have a personal net worth of at least 600,000 Canadian, and there can be up to 3 co-founders in a base stream application, each one of which has to meet the personal net worth requirement. By contrast, the regional stream has a personal net worth requirement of 300,000. The third biggest differentiator between the two streams is the amount of investment you have to make within the business. If you're in the base stream, you need to make an minimum eligible investment of at least 200,000 Canadian. And if you're in the regional stream, you have to make a minimum eligible investment of at least 100,000. And it's also really important to note the timing of the investment. The BC P&P process, which I'll dive into shortly, has multiple stages, and an investment can only be considered eligible if it's made after you've been invited to apply. In both streams, you have to demonstrate that the business can create at least one job opportunity for a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. Other program requirements that are shared between both streams include minimum experience requirements, language requirements, and minimum education requirements. And finally, the regional stream requires a letter of support from the participating community. So an exploratory visit is required, and you must have support from that community's designated. Here's how I would decide which stream to choose. First, determine where you're going to operate the business. If it's in a community that's part of the regional stream, start there. Unless you're purchasing a business or you'll be operating the business with co-founders, in which case you'll need to use the base stream. Another key consideration is your eligibility versus ranking. Eligibility is the minimum criteria you have to meet to move forward with an application. Eligibility is a pass-fail. Do you meet the criteria needed to qualify for the program, including education, work experience, language, ownership percentage, etc. Ranking, on the other hand, determines whether you win or not. Applications to the British Columbia Provincial Nominee Program are accepted by invitation, meaning not all eligible candidates can apply. First, you create a submission of interest, and that signals to the BC Provincial Nominee Program that you have a business you'd either like to purchase or launch in the province. And in that expression of interest, you self-declare your eligibility, and based on those factors, you're awarded points. Aligning your business plan and strategy with the ranking system will help you achieve more points, thus a higher rank, and a greater likelihood of being invited to apply. Higher investment, more jobs, relevant experience, higher net worth, and a business concept that's well researched and viable are going to result in a higher rank. Meeting the minimum requirements gets you in the stadium. Exceeding them lets you win. So here's what to consider when launching or purchasing a business in British Columbia and using the PNP entrepreneur streams. One, investment potential. Can you actually deploy $100,000 to $200,000 into the business? If you're purchasing a business, is there room to upgrade, digitize, add lines of service or products? Can you create at least one full-time job for a Canadian citizen or permanent resident? Is the business model strong? Can you demonstrate that there is a viable business, that you are likely to succeed, backed by market research and strong financial projections, as well as a clear and detailed operational plan? Do you have a distinct offer, or are you serving an underserved market? And do your business activities align with one of BC's key sectors: tech, clean energy, agri-foods, education, health, manufacturing? At the end of the day, you have to prove the business is viable and that you're the best person to be at the helm. Make sure it's well researched. Provide your data, include your financial projections, and have a clear plan of how you're going to bring the vision or the expansion to reality. Here's what the process looks like. Complete your research and conduct an exploratory visit. It's highly recommended for the base stream and required for the regional stream. Once that's done, complete your expression of interest and submit it to the BCPNP through BCPNP online portal. Your expression of interest will be ranked, and then you wait for rounds of invitation. Once you're invited to apply, the net worth verification takes place. And IRCC validates all of your self-declared eligibility claims. Once the net worth verification is completed, you'll be asked for an interview, and then you'll enter into a performance agreement with the province. And in that agreement, you set certain milestones that the business will achieve within the next 24 months. Once the performance agreement is signed, you'll be conditionally approved and receive a work permit support letter. This allows you to apply for a work permit and come to British Columbia to launch or take over the business and begin operating. Over the next 18 to 24 months, you need to work toward achieving the milestones established in the performance agreement. And once you've done that, you can apply to remove the conditions of the performance agreement. If successful, the BCPNP issues a nomination certificate, which allows you to move to the final step of applying for permanent residence, and that application is submitted to IRCC. So with SUV out of the game, it's a no-brainer to consider the BC Provincial Nominee Program if you're looking to build and scale in British Columbia. In fact, the faster you act, the faster you are to revenue and profitability, especially since the attention is moving away from the startup visa program. To get started, Visit Navio HQ. It's your hub for everything Canadian immigration, and it's absolutely free. Everything inside, from quizzes, templates, guides, and more, has been created by myself and the experts at Navio Immigration. Click the link below to log in.